Hello, I'm John Mountjoy with the Kentucky Head Start Association. I'd like to welcome you back to a series of conversations that we're having with Jay McCord about relevant leadership and the multi-generational workplace. Jay, thanks for being with us again.
Anytime, John. It's been so good breaking this down with you, and I really look forward to what we're going to talk about today.
So, in our previous conversations, we've learned a lot about the different components of the multi-generational workplace, sort of who they are.
Yep.
We've got our traditionals, we've got our boomers, we've got our Gen Xers, we've got our millennials, and our Gen Z. So we know what our generations are, and we know what some of the influences around those are. For instance, short attention spans, or 10,000 boomers retiring every single day. So if you could maybe give us a little bit of information as to what are some things we can be thinking about if we're trying to connect, communicate, and interact better with all those different things that are happening within our Head Start workplaces.
Yeah. So part of the challenge is that there's so many things and you're trying to keep it all straight. Remember, we've talked in previous conversations about bandwidth. You've got to guard yours, but you have to guard other people's. And so, but here's the thing. I want to give you some very practical and tactical ways to attack this, to improve morale individually, like your own morale, but with teams, within the workplace, within your community, within your home. And so I'm just going to dive straight in, John, if that's okay, and give you one that sounds so easy. It sounds so like, what's the big deal about that? But this one is really profound. And it is, why are you excited? Why are you excited? So what I mean by that is this. That is not a fluff question. That is actually a deep, penetrating question. It's an R&D question. Let me show you how to use that question. People, unfortunately, guys, don't care about what we're upset over or what we're frustrated with. They don't. I know, I wish they did, but they don't. So the bottom line to it is that people want to follow people that are excited, that see opportunities. And that's why we've talked in the past, some of these past conversations around being someone that knows the times, knows what to do, because people see you as having solutions. I want to challenge everybody watching this, John, and you included, to tonight, before your head hits the pillow, to please write down every single thing you're excited about in life right now. That could be your health, it could be your kids, your grandkids, where you work, having a job in this culture, not having COVID. It doesn't matter, just write it down. Because you need to know why you're excited, number one. Number two, you need to be able to articulate that to everyone, okay? Everybody out there. Because first and foremost, it sets you apart, and people they will gravitate to you. And if you're wanting them to do certain things, you want them following you. So this, why you're excited, articulating that every day, not only is going to improve your morale, but it's also going to be a magnet for other people. The other reason why that's important, and the way you flip it, John, in the workplace is, if you're my boss and every meeting that we have together, you start with, hey, Jay, what are you excited about today? Okay. If you ask me that question and I have to answer it in our meetings, one, it's going to change the tenor of the room. There's plenty to complain about. Everybody, we all know it, but this changes the tenor of the room. The other thing that's exciting, and maybe just a little bit of a tweak of that, is, John, if I worked for you, you could say at our meeting, hey, Jay, what are you most excited about here at Kentucky Head Start Association? Okay. Whatever I say next is exactly what you should put me on. Hey, John, this new initiative that we've got that we're talking about, man, that excites me so much. You might not care a thing about it, John. Really. I mean, like, okay, I know I got to do this new initiative, but Jay's really pumped. I need to put him on that. As leaders, you can start to put people in places that excite them when you know the answer to that question. So something as simple as, what are you excited about, changes the tenor of the room. It causes you to be seen as somebody that needs to be followed and listened to. And when you ask it of people, you're really going to know where to place them. So that's the first one. And John, I kind of stole that a little bit from a guy named Bert Jacobs. I would challenge every one of you to look him up. Bert and his brother started the Life is Good brand. They were selling t-shirts out of a van for 5 years. And the whole story behind the Life is Good brand, the little stick figure guy that you see on everything, was they got so sick of negative headlines that they said, what if there was a superhero out there whose superpower was optimism? That was a superpower. And Bert's brother drew Jake, which is the little stick figure guy. And that started that whole company. And they tell the story that really that optimism piece came from their mother, who forced them and all their siblings at dinner every night. She said, tell me something good that happened to you today. And I just sort of spun that to what are you excited about today?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first one, John. What are you excited about? And I would just ask you, while I got you on camera, what are you excited about today? What excites you?
You know, from my perspective, and I can say sort of professionally, what it really excites me is the very thing that we're doing, because I think that this recognizes that not only is there a need, but there's an opportunity, and it's a chance for us to deliver something to the Head Start community that is of immense value, that doesn't take up a lot of their time, but is chock full of great information. And so I really think for me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about sort of transforming how we deliver what we deliver.
I love it. And I love being a part of that. Well, let me give you a second one, very practical and tactical. I want everybody watching this to become a yes if versus no because kind of person. Yes if versus no because. Think about it this way. If I walk into John's office, let's say he's my boss, and I say, I know I've got this great idea that's really going to transform the organization. And if I come in and I show him, I'm all excited about it. And John says, no, Jay, that's not going to work because we don't have enough money in the budget. We don't have enough people. OSHA standards don't let us, right? If that's his response, then I have to spend lots of calories trying to convince John this is a good idea. But if John's natural first reaction is, well, yes, Jay, we could do that if we had enough people, had it in the budget, OSHA standards were different, then by just those simple two words, yes, if, now all of a sudden, guess what happens to Jay over here? I start thinking of, well, how can we get it in the budget?
Mm-hmm.
How can we get more people involved in this? What OSHA standards say this, but they don't say that. So the bottom line to it is, if you can become a yes, if versus no because kind of person, your optimism is going to bubble to the top, your excitement, enthusiasm. But what's great is by forcing people to answer yes, if, you're forcing solutions, new ideas. Think about this. Do you get sick of people bringing you problems? I mean, like, how many people in our lives, from our households to our workplaces, do they just come in like, John, I'm a professional trouble finder. You know, I'm going to find you another problem. You know, I don't know how many solves, but here's a problem. Go fix it, right? What if you had a culture that you forced everybody to answer yes, if, and I'm talking in your home too, not just at your workplace, but you forced them, like punish them for saying no, right? No, because throw $1 in the jar, right? You throw $1 every time. And then at the end of the year or the quarter, you take the jar and you go do something fun together as a team or a family, right? You turn the negative into a positive. But no, because is our immediate response. And especially in this environment, I learned a long time ago, John, that you never ask an attorney, a city attorney, when I was a council member, you never ask them, can we do something? Because their job is to tell you, no, we really can't.
That's right.
So by just changing it to how can we do this, it creates a solve. So my point to you watching today is become a yes, if versus no, because kind of person. Force that creative environment and positive environment by doing that. And instead of saying, can we, ask, how can we? Just put the word how in front and all of a sudden ideas pop, right? I mean, that's kind of how we ended up here today, John, if you really think about it, was, hey, Jay, we're not going to have our live meeting. So how can we get what I know you deliver live? How can we get that delivered to everybody virtually? And we came up with this idea of, let's do the virtual big one, and then let's do some small ones where we really dive in. That'd be really cool.
Right.
So, all right. So those are some of the big ones. And, you know, John, I think that we're in a time of real challenge, but I've got one other one that's in my hip pocket, and I love this. So I want to teach you something to do, and I want to challenge you, John, to do this tonight with your family. Okay. And everybody watching, I want you to do this with your family. It's called the 122 exercise. 122. 1, 2, 2. And I want you to write it down the page, all right? Not 122, but 1, 2, 2 in descending order. Number one, what is one thing that you're anxious about today? Write it down. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge the fact you got anxiety. The first number two, what are two things you are grateful for right now? What are you grateful for? And the last number two is, what are two things that you have already overcome in your lifetime that are pretty big? What you'll find is that you're anxious about stuff, and it's okay. And you countermand that by recognizing that you've got gratitude for certain things, that even though you're anxious about this, there are some really good things. But the big thing that will countermand the whole deal is when you see how much you've actually overcome in your lifetime. Already, you've done big things. You have overcome bigger obstacles, and we forget past successes. We're just moving on. So the 122 game, I challenge you to do it yourself, everybody watching, but I challenge you to do it with your families, with your coworkers, your staff. Have people do this, and what will happen is immediately morale goes through the ceiling. It just changes everything. So I think, what are you excited about is my first one. Second one, become a yes if versus no because kind of place. Third one is 122.
Yep.
And the last one I'll give you that will raise morale, help you, very practical and tactical, is I want you to picture a turtle on a fence post. And, in Kentucky where we live, you'll actually see this. And it might be, you can look at it two ways. One, I'm going to show you how to look at it as a positive, but I do acknowledge the fact that it is extremely cruel to that turtle. Okay. There are people that point that out every time I use this example that, yeah, well, that's great, but that turtle is really not in a great spot. Take this for the metaphor that it's meant to be. That turtle, when you see it on a fence post, it did not get there by itself. Someone placed it there, right? And again, it might be a little challenging for the turtle, cruel, whatever. But the point simply is that they couldn't have done that on their own. They just couldn't have. And really, the stuff that you've overcome in your life, you probably didn't overcome it by yourself. You probably didn't get to the place where you are today with some of the accomplishment that you've already done by yourself. So I want you to acknowledge that you don't need to be by yourself going forward. And you need to probably spend a few minutes, maybe a few days thinking about those people who have helped you get to where you are. And I would challenge you to write them or call them. Don't email them. Don't text them. I would tell you to write or call, because in this world right now, the technology is great, John. We couldn't have really done this live, right? But the technology can also take out the humanity if we're not careful. So I want you to incorporate the human touch. I want you to write a personal thank you note to the people in your life that you believe helped you, or pick up the phone and call them where they can hear your voice. One of those two things. Don't do it in an electronic format. So think about this. If you talk about what you're excited about all the time and challenge everyone around you to talk about it, it'll change the tenor of the room, right? Number two, if you become yes if versus no because kind of person and you force that in your culture, you're going to start finding solutions. Number three, if you play the 122 game, all of a sudden you're going to realize there's a lot more that you can be thankful for and you've already overcome than your anxiety right now. And number four, if you go and spend time thanking people that have put you in a place where you couldn't have gotten by yourself, then you're really spending your time wisely. You're not fretting over the headline. You're not worried about the fact that your county just changed from orange to red on some map or whatever it may be.
Right.
So that's my gift to everybody today, are those four things. And I know that came along fast and furious, but I know, John, your folks are hurting in many ways, and we just need to acknowledge that. And that's why I couldn't wait to get to this particular session.
That's right.
Here's four things you can go do immediately.
Absolutely. And, it sounds cheesy sometimes, but the power of positivity is a real thing.
It is.
And it really can transform not only your own personal outlook on whether it's your personal life, professional life, but just the way that you can, even without saying a word,
Yep.
you can influence other people by being positive.
Yeah.
And what that can end up transforming, because there's so many opportunities that we now have. And there's a lot of people that look at COVID-19 and say, oh my gosh, what a hassle this is. We'll never get through this. It'll never be the same. Well, you're right. It may not be the same.
Right.
But look at all the great things we're doing now.
Yeah.
So it's just how you look at life, and it's just how you look at the problems. So yes, Jay, thank you very much. We've downloaded an awful lot of information, and I know that people are going to find immense value in it. So this is the third of our podcasts, and so we're going to do one more after this, and so I hope you'll look forward to that. We're going to be taking a look at how we can be effective communicators. Yeah. So we've learned about our multi-generational workplace. We've talked about who is in it and what it's comprised of. We've talked about how to be positive and have morale. And now we're going to wrap it all up in the next one, talking about how do we communicate effectively. So I hope you'll join us then. Jay, as always, thanks for being a part of it.
Anytime, John. Thank you.